Welcome back to the 1814 campaign, guys, and what an amazing or exciting turn. We had 4 battles in all the different areas. Yeah, lots of troops moving, lots of casualties. It was pretty exciting. If you haven't already, do please like and subscribe. Also go and check us out on Facebook so you can always be kept updated on when new videos are coming out, and you can also share what you're working on. So for the campaign, we're using my own rule set. It's called Beggars and Scoundrels. You can go and purchase it on my Ko-fi channel. The link is in the description. So, for those of you that aren't aware where the 1814 campaign is set, it's set in France itself. So in the south this turn, we had the French holding the 2 river crossings, whilst the orders for the Allies were for them to split their forces and aim to attack and cross in at least one of them, and the Russians were ordered to get to the centre between the 2 bridges and put a pontoon bridge up. In the centre we had the coalition forces strung out along the road, marching, and Napoleon was able to fall upon them. And over in the east, we had the coalition forces moving north to try and cut Ney off from his supply lines, but Ney was given instructions just to bowl through and try and take the town to recreate a brand new supply line. So the first of our battles is the central battle where Napoleon is striking down. So force numbers, he starts off slightly ahead, but more or less in parity with the Russians. The Russian forces start strung out on the road, and unfortunately for the French, there are also Austrian forces ahead and Prussian forces bringing up the rear. So when are they going to arrive and sort of march to the sound of the guns? We don't know. That's going to come down to a random luck of the dice. If they all come quickly, they will severely outnumber the French. If they take a long time, then the French have the advantage. So as the battle begins, the Russians, who are the middle group of the marching column, are stuck in the middle, and the French, out of the fog and the rain, have appeared on their flank. The Russians themselves are outnumbered. We will see when the Austrians will return. They're just up ahead, and the Prussians, who are just behind. So we don't know what turn they're going to arrive yet, but they could be the saving grace for the Russians. The French do have their special rules for their charges, which they got this turn as their random events, but there is heavy rain, so it's going to reduce everyone's movement and abilities to fire. So as the battle begins, the Russians, who are the middle group of the marching column, are stuck in the middle, and the French, out of the fog and the rain, have appeared on their flank. The Russians themselves are outnumbered. We will see when the Austrians will return. They're just up ahead, and the Prussians, who are just behind. So we don't know what turn they're going to arrive yet, but they could be the saving grace for the Russians. The French do have their special rules for their charges, which they got this turn as their random events, but there is heavy rain, so it's going to reduce everyone's movement and abilities to fire. So at the end of turn 1, it was quite a catastrophic turn for the Russians. The French army advanced in a general fashion. The Russians tried to withdraw towards the little village to get a defensive position. Unfortunately, their cavalry, the hussars, who were kind of out just guarding the flank, took the full charge of the chasseurs and were destroyed. So that was the end of them. Everyone else is kind of withdrawn back. We did volley into the cavalry, but only did minimal casualties. Luckily, due to the rain, the French artillery was ineffective, but not a good turn for the Russians. So turn 2 saw the French still trying to converge, but the wet ground is really slowing them. The Russians are pulling back towards the village to put in a defensive position to try and await reinforcements, which from next turn we'll be able to roll to see whether they start to come on or not. This turn, the Russian infantry did get hit by French artillery, and Russian artillery was unable to fire due to the weather. Okay, so at the start of turn 3, the Russians pulled back into the village, or the surrounding areas, to make a defensive spot, and then for the dice roll, the Austrians did arrive. They heard the gunfire and marched towards it. The French, now with a threat on their flank have decided to withdraw from the battle. So, having done a bit of damage, they're going to get out of there to fight another day. So for the second battle today, we're actually doing the second and third. So we've got the town of Troyes, or Troyes, where we've got the French Guard, who will be fighting against, holding action against the Austrians. And then about 10 miles down the road, we've got the second crossing, which has got the Reserve Corps for the French, who are holding out against the Prussians. This central line of trees is just a barrier so that everyone knows kind of where the boundaries of each map end. The French do have to make a decision. Are they going to dispatch troops to try and counter the Russian crossing, in which case we'll take that into account next turn, or are they going to allow the Russians an unopposed crossing? So the French do have two pretty strong groups. Unfortunately, the most southerly don't have artillery, but overall they're in pretty good position, or situation. The Allies, the Austrians, have got reasonable numbers, but they are slightly weaker. The Prussians are a small group, even though they did get reinforcements this turn. Both of them are attacking defending positions, so it's going to be a bit of a tricky one for them. So after deployment, we have the three Russian groups on this side facing off against the French. In the centre, we dispatched one of the divisions of the French from this side of the field to go to help repel the Russians, and we sent the cuirassiers from this side, so they will be out of the battle. And then down at this end, we've got the Old Guard, Grenadiers, Chasseurs, and let's just call them Middle Guard, defending the village against the Austrian forces. So at the end of turn 1, we saw some exchanges of fire between the French and Austrians, but nothing too major. And on this side, the Prussian light infantry in the village were firing across at the French, and again did a few bits of light damage, did cause a wound to the commander. So as turn 2 comes to an end, what happened? The Prussians have been advancing towards the town, and there was a bit of an exchange of gunfire, but very ineffective from both sides. And on this side, the Austrians again are getting their troops ready to try and assault across. The French are just holding in their defensive position. Again, a few shots between both the sides, but pretty ineffective due to the heavy rain. So turn 3, again, pretty uneventful, just the Austrians keep coming forwards. The boggy ground is really slowing them. The Prussians have got a foothold across the river, but if they're not lucky this turn, they will get charged by the cavalry. There was a bit of an exchange of small arms fire, but nothing too major. So turn 4 saw the Austrians in position, so they started to cross the river. The light infantry got across, took a couple of volleys and broke. They've brought their artillery up a bit closer so that it can start to do close support fire, but that's about it there. However, on the other side, further south, the Prussian infantry did get across the river, but then they got charged by the cavalry and the infantry. However, the light infantry, as they closed, took a volley and routed. During the fighting, the Prussians were destroyed, but due to small arms fire, this infantry regiment did break as well, so it's currently not looking too good on this flank for the French. So at the end of turn 4, with most of the French forces broken, they are withdrawing from the field. However, the Prussians have taken a hard pounding themselves, so probably won't be in much of a position to do more than just occupy the opposite side of the river. So at the end of turn 6, the Austrians are again attempting to push across the river, but they haven't really made much success. The light infantry are still broken and withdrawing, and after the fall of the first crossing, we rolled a d6 to figure out how many turns it would take for the messenger to arrive, and he's just arrived to say no need to keep pushing here, so the Austrians are going to stop their assault. So now we get to the turn 5 options for the French, the fun bit. So starting in the sort of southwest, we've got a full withdrawal just due west. All the forces head in the same direction to evade the Allies. Option 2 sees all of the French forces heading in a northerly direction. So again, trying to stay close together, but head north to link up with the other French forces. Option 3 is for both of the forces to split and one group to head west and one group to head north. In the centre, we've got an option where the French move back to a more central position. Again, just gaining a bit of space and a bit of time. That way they can have the option to move south if they need to. Option 2 is for all of their forces to move in that sort of southerly direction so that they can try and link up with those southern troops. Option 3 is just to push the offensive and just keep going after the coalition forces. And then our final option for the centre is for them to head in an easterly direction to link up with Ney and or go on the offensive against the two isolated coalition corps. In the east, we've got option 1 for Ney to just head north and try and destroy those two enemy corps. Option 2 is for him to head straight into the centre to try and join up with Napoleon. And that way they can combine their numbers. Next option is to attack and try and catch the main coalition forces in the rear. Especially this could work well if Napoleon does launch an attack. And then the final option is for him to head south to try and break up the coalition forces who are currently pushing in that direction. And next up we have the turn 5 allied options. So again, starting in the south, we have the option for our forces to split and half go due west and half head north. Next option is for all forces to head north to try and cut them off and put pressure on the central French forces from a different direction. Third option is for all forces to just head due west. If the enemy are there, we fight them, and if not, it gives us a link round into Paris' underbelly. Next, for our central forces, option 1 is to go straight after Ney, and just all of them go east. Option 2 is to again try and move into that sort of more central position so that we can control what the French are doing and limit their options. Next, we just go on the attack. Napoleon came at us last time. This time we go after him. If we can catch him, we could destroy him. And then for the easterly forces, option 1 is for our two corps to just sort of casually move down the eastern side of the river and take that town and then just hold in their positions. Option 2 is for the forces to move into the central position, and if the possibility arises, they attack Napoleon himself. And option 3 is they go after Ney and pursue with the intention of engaging and destroying. So let me know down below what you thought about the events of the last turn and also these options. Let me know what you think is the best strategy for both sides going forwards. It's definitely an interesting and difficult stage for both sides really. Whilst the coalition have more troops, it's kind of hard for them to get them united at the moment. But as I said last time, if you're enjoying the campaign, if you want to get your hands on it, head over to the coffee channel where you can pick up the rules which come with the campaign itself. Then you can fight it out either as we play along or just on yourself to see how you do separately. But anyway, till next time guys, I hope you take care.